It's July 3rd, 1863, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The largest battle ever fought on American soil is about to reach its breaking point. 12,000 Confederate soldiers are standing in an open field. In 45 minutes, they're going to walk straight into Union artillery and rifle fire across nearly a mile of open ground. 3 out of every 5 men who step forward won't make it back. History calls it Pickett's Charge. The men who survive it call it a slaughter. But let's change one thing. Somewhere on the Confederate left flank, an M1A2 Abrams main battle tank sits in a tree line. 68 tons of composite armor, a 120mm smoothbore cannon that fires a depleted uranium round at over a mile per second. Thermal imaging that sees through smoke, fog, and total darkness like they don't exist. One tank, one crew of 4 men, dropped into the bloodiest moment of the American Civil War. Every artillery piece the Union Army owns in 1863 would bounce clean off it all day long. Every rifle, every cannon, every weapon on this battlefield fires projectiles that were obsolete before the Abrams even rolled off the assembly line. So the South wins, right? Here's what makes that question dangerous. The Abrams isn't just a weapon the Confederacy can't lose with. It's a weapon that runs on fuel that doesn't exist in 1863. Maintained by a supply chain that won't be invented for another 150 years, crewed by 4 men who are 600 years away from the nearest friendly base. It can win every engagement on this battlefield. The question is whether winning engagements wins wars. If that question interests you, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely keeps this channel going. Subscribe if you haven't already. We drop videos like this every week. And before we go any further, drop a comment below. What historical battle do you want to see next? The best suggestion gets the next video. Now, let's talk about what this tank is actually up against. So let's understand exactly what we just dropped into 1863. The M1A2 Abrams fires a kinetic penetrator round at 5,700 feet per second. At that speed, the round doesn't explode. It doesn't need to. It punches through steel like a needle through paper and turns everything inside into superheated fragments traveling in every direction at once. A direct hit on a Civil War artillery battery doesn't disable it. It erases it. One shot. Gone. The thermal imaging system sees heat signatures out to 3 miles in complete darkness. Every horse, every soldier, every artillery crew glows white hot against a cold background. The Abrams can identify, track, and fire on a target before that target knows it's being watched. Top speed, 42 miles per hour cross-country. The fastest Confederate cavalry in 1863 moves at 15 on a good road. And the armor. A Confederate 12-pound Napoleon cannon fires a solid iron ball at roughly 900 feet per second. The crew inside feels a vibration. The ball falls to the ground. That's the entire interaction. Now here's the problem the Confederacy hasn't thought about yet. The Abrams burns through roughly 300 gallons of JP-8 jet fuel per day of heavy operations. In 21st century warfare, that's fine. Fuel trucks, forward operating bases, aerial resupply. In 1863, there are no fuel trucks, no resupply chain, no logistics network that can feed a turbine engine burning fuel that won't exist for another 150 years. The crew carried what they came with. When it's gone, it's gone. One tank with a clock ticking inside it. Now let's talk about what it's fighting. The Army of Northern Virginia in July 1863 is 75,000 men, the finest Confederate force ever assembled. Robert E. Lee commands it. 2 years of brutal combat. They've beaten larger Union armies again and again through speed, aggression, and an almost fanatical willingness to attack. Their artillery, 272 guns at Gettysburg, Napoleons, Parrots, 3-inch ordnance rifles, devastating against infantry. Useless against composite armor. Facing them, 94,000 Union soldiers under George Meade. More men, more guns, better supply lines. And one advantage that doesn't show up on any order of battle. The North has factories. The North can replace losses the South simply cannot afford. But right now, on July 3rd, none of that arithmetic matters yet. What matters is that 68 tons of American steel is sitting in a tree line on Seminary Ridge. Engine idling at 1,000 horsepower. Thermal sight sweeping across 12,000 Confederate soldiers, forming up for the last charge they'll ever make. The crew has a decision to make in the next 45 minutes. 2:51 p.m. The Confederate artillery opens up. 160 guns fire simultaneously along Seminary Ridge. The ground shakes for half a mile in every direction. Smoke rolls across the valley in thick white sheets. The largest artillery bombardment ever attempted on American soil. And it doesn't work. Most rounds sail long. The Union artillery ducks low, conserves ammunition, and waits. The Abrams doesn't move yet. The crew watches through thermal. 12,000 heat signatures forming into columns on the ridgeline. Officers on horseback, command clusters, artillery positions. They're not thinking like 1863 soldiers. 3:14 p.m. The Confederate guns go quiet. 12,000 men step out of the tree line and begin walking towards Cemetery Ridge. Nearly a mile of open ground. No cover, no concealment. Just grass, a post and rail fence, and the entire Union Army waiting on the other side. The Abrams moves. It rolls out of the tree line at 20 miles per hour, tracks chewing through Pennsylvania farmland, engine roaring with a sound that has no name in 1863. A full regiment breaks formation just from the noise. Horses rear and scatter. Officers scream orders nobody hears. The crew commander picks his first target, a Union artillery battery on Cemetery Ridge. 12 guns, 2,000 meters. The first round fires. The sound hits like a physical wall. The round covers 2,000 meters in just over 1 second. The Union battery disappears in a flash of fire and shattered iron. 12 guns, their crews, gone. One shot. The Confederate infantry stares. Then they keep walking. Because that's what soldiers do in 1863. You keep walking. 2 more batteries on the right flank. Gone. Then the guns covering the angle of advance that historically tears Pickett's division apart before it covers half the distance. Gone. 3:22 p.m. The Confederate line is still intact, still moving. The Union center looks thin for the first time in this battle. Hancock rides hard along his line. 3 batteries gone in under 2 minutes. No warning, no visible enemy. He pulls his remaining artillery to reverse slopes and extends his flanks. Every sharpshooter in range ordered to target whatever is making that sound. Mini balls ping off the Abrams hull like gravel off a tin roof. 3:31 p.m. The Confederate line reaches the Emmitsburg Road fence, the halfway point. 2 of the 3 batteries that would have fired canister are smoking craters. The line crosses the fence intact. 3:38 p.m. They hit the Union line, hand to hand in 60 seconds. Bayonets, rifle butts, pistols at arm's length. The Union line bends. Then, it breaks. Confederate soldiers pour over the stone wall and onto Cemetery Ridge. The high water mark of the Confederacy moves forward by 200 meters. For 15 minutes, the Army of Northern Virginia stands on the highest ground in Pennsylvania, looking down at a Union army that has never been pushed this far back on its own soil. 15 minutes. That's all they get. Fresh Union brigades slam into both flanks simultaneously. The Abrams is still 2 kilometers north, out of position, unable to cover the ridge in time. Without fire support, the Confederate soldiers on the crest have no answer for 8,000 Union troops hitting them from both sides at once. They hold for 11 minutes. Then the formation comes apart. The retreat is worse than the advance. Broken groups running across open ground, surviving Union artillery opening up from the ridge, officers trying to hold formations that no longer exist. The Abrams fires twice more, buys minutes, not enough. By 4:15 p.m., the Confederate infantry is back where it started. But here's what's different. In history, Pickett's charge breaks the offensive power of the Army of Northern Virginia permanently. Today, Pickett's division walked back, 2,000 men alive who should be dead in a Pennsylvania field. And Lee isn't retreating, he's looking north, and the Abrams still has fuel. July 5th, 1863. Lee doesn't retreat south, he turns north. Every Union commander, from Meade down to his last brigade general, expects the opposite. A beaten Confederate army runs for the Potomac. That's how it always works. But Lee isn't beaten, and he knows something Meade doesn't yet understand. As long as the Abrams is moving, the Union Army can't mass its artillery, can't hold a fixed line, can't do the one thing it does better than the Confederacy: grind, attrite, wait. Stuart's cavalry screens northeast. 3 divisions of infantry follow, 45,000 men moving fast, cutting telegraph lines, living off the Pennsylvania countryside. The Abrams rolls at the front of the column, not beside it, not behind it, in front, because everything in front of it needs to be cleared before the infantry has to bleed. In Washington, Lincoln doesn't sleep. Stanton is the first one to say what everyone in the War Department is already thinking. We don't fight it, we starve it. And here's where the clock the crew has been watching since day one starts running loud. July 11th, 40% fuel remaining. The crew commander's report to Lee's staff is 4 sentences long and completely without drama. Approximately 60 to 80 hours of operational capacity at current consumption. After that, the vehicle is stationary. A stationary vehicle can still fire. It cannot maneuver. Lee reads it twice. Makes his decision in the same silence he makes every decision. If the tank stops moving, it becomes a fixed fortification. Powerful, indestructible, and completely irrelevant to a commander who needs mobility to win. One chance, one target, one city that ends the war if it falls. He aims at Washington. July 13th. The Abrams leads the advance down the 7th Street pike toward the Capitol. 45,000 infantry behind it. Lee riding at the center of the column, watching the machine that has rewritten his understanding of what war can be. The Washington defenses are the most elaborate fortification network in North America. 68 individual forts, connected by miles of trenches and rifle pits, ringing the entire city. 38,000 troops behind prepared earthworks, positioned, supplied, and waiting. And for 11 days, the Union Army has been watching the Abrams move. They can't penetrate the armor. Every general in Washington knows that now. But they've learned other things. It follows roads when terrain allows. It slows on soft ground. The crew opens hatches to communicate and to breathe in the July heat. They don't try to destroy it. They try to stop it. July 14th, 4:41 a.m. 2 miles outside the Washington defensive perimeter on the 7th Street pike, Union engineers have been working through the night. 300 meters of road, flooded by diverting a stream across low ground. Solid farmland turned into a mud trap 18 inches deep. Artillery pre-sighted on the surrounding fields. Every gun loaded with canister. 10,000 infantry in the tree lines on both flanks. The Abrams hits the mud at 15 miles per hour, 68 tons on a soft substrate. The tracks dig in immediately, churning great brown waves. The engine pitch rising as the turbine fights for traction. 15 miles per hour becomes 8, then 4, then 2. The driver shifts to reverse. The tracks spin. The tank slides 3 feet toward the ditch line. The Union artillery opens up, not at the hull, at the tracks. A Napoleon can't penetrate Abrams' armor, but a direct hit on an exposed track link at 200 meters, canister ripping across the running gear at 900 feet per second, is a different problem entirely. The first salvo misses. The second misses. The third, 42 guns firing simultaneously, lands 2 hits on the left track assembly. The track holds, but a return roller deforms. The left side begins shuddering with every rotation. Inside the hull, the driver reports reduced steering. The tank is still moving, barely, crawling forward in a straight line at under 2 miles per hour, burning fuel at maximum consumption rate, not maneuvering, just existing. Confederate infantry pushes forward through the flanking tree lines, trying to reach the road. Union canister tears into them before they cover 50 meters. 3 regiments lose over 30% of their men in under 8 minutes. They stop. For 4 hours, the most powerful land weapon in human history sits trapped in Maryland mud 2 miles from the United States Capitol. Left track damaged. Fuel at 18%. The infantry behind it bleeding into the dirt and unable to reach it. At 9:17 a.m., the crew commander makes the call. Engine off. Preserve remaining fuel. Defensive position only. The Abrams goes silent. For the first time in 11 days, the Union commanders exhale. They haven't destroyed it. They haven't beaten it. They've done something more useful than either. They've made it irrelevant. So who wins? The Union. And it isn't close. The Abrams did everything a tank can do. In 11 days, it destroyed over 60 artillery pieces, broke 4 defensive lines, and carried the Confederate Army further into Union territory than any force in the history of the war. At Gettysburg, it saved 2,000 men who historically died in an open field. But a turning point you can't hold isn't a turning point. It's a delay. Lee's army sits outside Washington for 9 days. The Abrams doesn't move again. 18% fuel is enough to fire the main gun at anything that gets close. Not enough to maneuver. Not enough to break through 68 forts with infantry that can't reach the road. The Union doesn't attack. It waits. And waiting is what the Union does better than anyone. Supply lines from Virginia stretch thinner every day. Confederate foraging parties pushing into Maryland meet organized resistance that didn't exist 2 weeks ago. On July 23rd, Lee begins the withdrawal. He leaves the Abrams where it stopped. The crew destroys the navigation systems, the optics, the cryptographic equipment. Then they walk south with the retreating army. 4 men in uniforms nobody can identify, carrying weapons nobody can replicate, disappearing into a war that was never theirs to fight. The Confederate Army crosses the Potomac intact. That's the real difference the Abrams made. Not the battles it won, but the men it brought home. The army that crosses the river is still dangerous, still capable of defending Virginia for another year, maybe 2. But the arithmetic doesn't change. 32 million Union citizens against 9 million Confederate, 47 times more iron. A naval blockade tightening every month. Grant hasn't even started yet. One tank bought the Confederacy time. Time without a plan is just a longer way to lose. By 1865, the story ends exactly where history left it. Grant grinds Lee into the dirt. Sherman burns through Georgia. Richmond falls. Lee surrenders at Appomattox, just with fewer men around him who remember what it felt like to stand on Cemetery Ridge for 15 minutes and think they'd won. So what does the Abrams actually change? Not the outcome, not the winner, not the fundamental reality that the Confederacy was fighting an industrial giant that hadn't yet decided to fight seriously. It changes the cost, the time. And for 2,000 men who walked back from Pickett's charge instead of dying in a Pennsylvania field, it changes everything. Was it worth it? That's not a question about tanks. That's a question about war. Drop it in the comments, because this one doesn't have a clean answer. If you want to see what happens when 12 Green Berets drop into the fall of Constantinople, that video is on your screen right now. Thanks for watching.